Welcome to our deep dive, everyone. And today we're taking a different approach. Um, we're going to look at further education governance, but through a very personal story. It's one that really highlights resilience, opportunity, and how education can shape lives.
Yeah, it is. And using a narrative like this is, I think, really helpful because it brings these abstract ideas down to earth. And it reminds us that governance, it's not just a concept. It has a real impact on people.
Right, exactly. And that's why I think our speaker story today is so powerful, because they start by talking about growing up in Taunton. It's a ward in Bath that, back in 2000, was in the lowest 3.3% for child poverty in all of England.
Wow.
And in their words, this meant being surrounded by, and this is a quote, heroin addicts, active prostitutes, and habitual thieves.
It's hard to even imagine.
Yeah. And for our speaker, this wasn't just data on a page, it was their reality.
I mean, when you grow up seeing that level of inequality firsthand, it must really shape how you view the world. I can see why they became interested in systems and trying to understand how these disparities arise and persist.
And for our speaker, education became this really powerful force, especially because of their mother. She was a young single mother herself, but she really championed education as a way to a better life.
That's incredible.
And she kind of defied those limiting narratives that unfortunately often surround single-parent households.
Yeah. And it makes you think about what success even means in a context like that. Like, whose definition are we using? And can governance help to broaden those definitions, or does it just reinforce the existing ones?
Absolutely. And with this focus on education, our speaker eventually enters the world of further education, a sector they describe as being at the heart of opportunity, but often operating within chaos.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it sounds like there's a real tension there, right?
Yeah.
FE has this potential to really lift up individuals and communities, but it's held back by the lack of strong governance. It's like having a powerful engine, but with a shaky steering wheel.
I like that analogy. And we see this tension firsthand as our speaker moves into leadership roles within FE colleges. They had quite a lot of autonomy in these roles, reshaping relationships with students and the community, analyzing the labor market, even proposing new curricula.
It sounds like they had a real impact.
Yeah, they did. But looking back, they also recognized the downsides of that autonomy.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of structured oversight or clear ways to challenge or validate their decisions.
I see. So like they were given a lot of power, but not necessarily the guidance or support to use it effectively.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And to highlight this point, the speaker contrasts that experience with another college where decision-making was often driven by unspoken expectations, rather than any kind of data or strategy.
Oh, wow. So you have these two very different approaches to governance.
Yeah, and it just shows how inconsistent things can be across the sector.
And it makes you wonder what that means for the students. I mean, these colleges, they're lifelines for so many people, especially those from disadvantaged backgrounds, offering second chances, vocational training, pathways to higher education.
Absolutely. So the question becomes, how can these institutions truly support their students if governance structures are fragmented? If decisions lack transparency, lack evidence, and if the voices of students and communities aren't being heard?
Right. And our speakers saw the consequences of that firsthand. They actually went through redundancies, both experiencing them and having to execute them because of mismanagement and short-sighted leadership.
It's a stark reminder that these aren't just theoretical problems. They have real-world impact on people's lives. In fact, in 2018, our speaker actually left FE after facing redundancy themselves. And they spent some time really questioning the purpose of this sector, wondering if they even belonged in it anymore.
That's tough.
It is. But it was during this time that they started to realize just how much of an impact strong governance can actually have. And it wasn't just from their own experience. It was from the work they did in the charitable sector and researching public administration. And they found this quote from Nordberg. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
I don't think so.
Well, he describes governance as the steering wheel, the brake, and the accelerator of an institution.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah. And it really made our speaker think about, what is further education actually for? Is it just about qualifications and jobs? Or is it something bigger? Is it a catalyst for social mobility, a bridge to equity, a beacon of hope for individuals and communities?
Big questions, yeah. And I think the speaker believes that the answer lies in governance. It's about how governance can connect institutions to their communities and how it makes sure that decisions are based on evidence. And ultimately, it determines whether FE succeeds or fails. The speaker's whole journey going from feeling lost to this deeper understanding of governance, it really shows how important governance is, not just for individuals, but for the whole FE sector.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that we're not just talking about some bureaucratic process, it's about people and their purpose. And what struck me was that our speaker doesn't just point out the problems, but they also offer solutions, like a roadmap to make FE governance a strength.
Right, exactly. And they really stress the need for accountability at all levels of the FE system. And they're not talking about just ticking boxes and following the rules, but like a real sense of responsibility for how decisions impact people.
So it's about asking those tough questions like, why are we doing this? Is there evidence to back this up? And how will this actually help our students in our community? And then, actually being willing to change course if things aren't working.
Exactly. It's about being transparent, being open about the reasons behind decisions, and accepting responsibility for the outcomes. And this accountability goes beyond just the inner workings of FE institutions. It's about strengthening the connections between colleges and the communities they serve.
And that's crucial, right? How can FE colleges understand the needs of their students if they're operating in a bubble?
It's like navigating a maze blindfolded. Our speaker really emphasizes building genuine partnerships and making sure that students, local businesses, community leaders, everyone has a voice and that their voices are actually included in the decision making.
So governance becomes a collaboration, right? Where everyone's input is valued. It's not just top-down anymore.
Yeah, and most importantly, it puts students at the center. They're not just passive recipients of education anymore. They're actively shaping their own learning and the future of the FE sector. Their needs and aspirations should be the driving force behind everything.
It's about shifting the focus from what's best for the institution to what's best for the students. And when that happens, everything else starts to fall into place.
The speaker's journey through FE, both inside and outside the system, gave them a unique perspective on this. They've seen it from both sides.
They've taken all those experiences, all those observations, and turned them into this powerful call to action. It's not just identifying the problems, it's about charting a course for a better future.
And it's a path that needs people to be brave, committed, and willing to challenge how things have always been done. But the payoff could be huge. Imagine an FE sector where governance isn't a burden, but something that enables progress, where decisions are made based on evidence and driven by a shared commitment to equity and opportunity.
It's an inspiring vision, and it feels achievable. It means we need to rethink some assumptions, break down barriers between different parts of the system, and embrace collaboration and innovation.
Absolutely. And what's so compelling about this story is that it goes beyond just FE governance. It's about how one person's experience can reveal a larger truth, spark a conversation, and inspire collective action.
It's a good reminder that we all have a role in shaping the future of education. Whether you're a student, teacher, policymaker, or just someone who cares about a fairer society, this message is for you. It's a call to get involved, to look critically at the systems that shape our lives, and to demand better.
And speaking of demanding better, our speaker also highlights the importance of embracing complexity and uncertainty in FE governance. We can't just rely on old models or try to force everything into neat categories. The world is changing fast, and FE needs to keep up.
So that means we have to get comfortable with ambiguity, be willing to try new things, and be open to new ideas, recognizing that there's no one solution that fits every situation.
Yeah, we need to move away from those rigid structures and develop a more adaptable approach, one that can navigate the complexities of our world and meet the diverse needs of learners and communities.
It's about seeing FE not as something fixed, but as something that's alive, always growing and changing. And this brings us back to the human side of FE governance.
Because at the end of the day, it's not about abstract policies and procedures. It's about people. It's about creating an educational system that empowers individuals, nurtures talent, and unlocks human potential.
It's about students in Twerton and countless other communities who deserve a chance to succeed no matter where they come from.
Effective governance sets the stage for these opportunities to thrive. It makes sure resources are distributed fairly and that decisions are made with students' best interests in mind.
And as our speaker reminds us, it's not a spectator sport. We all need to be actively involved, think critically about these systems, and speak up when they're not serving students well.
It's a call for all of us to become champions for FE. We all have a role to play in demanding better for our students, our educators, and our communities.
Because when FE succeeds, everyone benefits. We have a more skilled workforce, more engaged citizens, and a more just and equitable society. We've really explored the complexities and the potential of FE governance, how it can either lift people up or hold them back.
Imagine an FE sector that's no longer seen as a second best option, but as a dynamic pathway to success in all its forms. Imagine FE colleges that are truly at the heart of their communities, driving social mobility, encouraging innovation, and empowering people to reach their full potential. That's the future we can create together.
And effective, responsive, human-centered governance is how we get there. It feels like we're really talking about changing the whole culture of the FE sector, like shifting its values, not just tweaking a few policies here and there.
It is a big shift, and I think the image of a mobile, how everything's connected, that really fits because FE governance, it's not isolated. It's tied to how funding works, how curriculum is designed, teacher training, community partnerships, the whole ecosystem.
Yeah, exactly. It's all linked. So just like with a mobile, you change one thing without thinking about the consequences, and the whole thing could fall apart. But if you get the dynamics right, even small changes can make a huge difference.
Exactly. And that's where leadership comes in, right? We need leaders who can see the big picture, who understand how all these parts connect, and can make decisions that benefit the entire FE system.
Leaders who aren't afraid to get their hands dirty, because real change isn't always pretty, right?
Yeah.
It takes experimentation, flexibility, and being willing to adapt and learn as you go.
Absolutely. We need to move away from this idea of governance as a rigid top-down kind of thing.
Right.
What we need is a more flexible approach, one that's built on collaboration, transparency, and responsiveness.
So it's about seeing FE not as this static, unchanging thing, but as something that's constantly evolving and adapting to the world around it. Which brings us back to that human element of FE governance that we keep talking about.
Yes, because ultimately, this isn't about abstract policies or procedures, it's about people. It's about building an educational system that empowers individuals, nurtures their talents, and helps them reach their full potential. It's about making sure that FE colleges are equipped to provide students with the support and guidance they need to succeed.
It's about those students in Torton and countless other communities who deserve the opportunity to thrive, regardless of their background.
Effective governance creates the conditions for those opportunities to flourish. It makes sure that resources are used fairly and that decisions are made with students' best interests in mind. It's like creating fertile ground for potential to take root and grow.
And as our speaker emphasized, this isn't something that just happens on its own. It takes all of us to be engaged, to think critically about these systems, and to challenge the status quo when it's not serving students well.
It's a call to action for all of us to become advocates for FE. We all have a responsibility to demand better for our students, our educators, and our communities.
Because when FE thrives, everyone benefits. We end up with a more skilled workforce, more engaged citizens, and a more just and equitable society. So we've really explored the complexities and the potential of FE governance in this deep dive. We've seen how it can either uplift or undermine, how it can be a source of frustration or a catalyst for hope.
Imagine an FE sector that's no longer seen as a second-rate option, but as a vibrant, dynamic pathway to success in all its different forms. Imagine FE colleges that are truly at the heart of their communities, driving social mobility, fostering innovation, and empowering individuals to reach their full potential. That's the future we can build together.
And that future hinges on effective, responsive, human-centered governance. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'd like you to think about what role this how has this story changed